Welcome to the Popcorn Talk Network, for the online broadcast network that features movie discussion, news, and interviews. Press 1. Popcorn Talk. We talk movies.
Congratulations. On behalf of the Popcorn Talk Network, the online broadcast network for movie talk, and the Schmoes know, you are now a member of the Jedi Alliance. May the Force be with you, always.
Hello and welcome to Jedi Alliance, a celebration of the greatest saga ever told. And it seems like every second there is more and more saga to be celebrated, and I am not complaining. Today we're going to celebrate the new Star Wars novel Before the Awakening. I am one of your hosts. My name is Joseph Scrimshaw. Your other host, as always, is...
Right here, the internet soapbox Mark Donica. You can find me on Twitter at soapboxmark. And joining us, Miss Audrey Kern.
Hi there. Thanks for having me.
Always a dang pleasure.
Thank you for it being a dang pleasure. It makes me happy.
It's the tall side of the Force.
It's the tall side of the Force.
And you always do a great job with who you are, what you do. So can you rattle that off real quick?
I will. I'm the editor. I messed up right away.
At least it was
Too
on the
much
top.
pressure. Editor-in-chief and founder of GeekGirlAuthority.com. We're a pop culture and geek culture website. We also have podcasts and think pieces, etc., breaking news. I produce and host a podcast called Kneel Before Odd, where I interview geek patriots, another podcast called Polecats, and a storytelling show called 5 Truths and a Lie.
That was great. You know, one of my other favorite things about you, Audrey, besides being a great guest on Jedi Alliance, is that you have an asthma inhaler. You have it here with you today. You spent the weekend in Vegas.
Yes, I did.
And your voice is a little fried.
It is.
Every time we do a media thing together, I secretly hope that you will have to use your asthma inhaler online, because it is just this beautiful, perfect, stereotypical geek thing.
Perfect thing for a nerd. And the thing is I always have it with me, and I think the fact that I have it with me makes me not need it.
Okay, but if you just get excited and just want to use it, I'm just telling you, I would be okay with it.
Such.
After everything we've done together professionally, Joseph, I think this is the closest it may come to me actually having to use my inhaler, because I'm having a lot of trouble right now.
Excellent. Well, I'm going to ask you a bunch more questions.
Okay. If you make me laugh, that's usually what will kick it off. Or if you give me something cold. So if you go out and get me some ice cream right now, I'll have an asthma attack.
Some cold jokes.
Some cold
jokes coming your way. So I want to ask you about your Force Awakens experience. Since the movie came out, we've been asking everybody.
Right.
What was your first viewing experience? What was it like? Where did you go? All that kind of stuff.
Well, I've had 3 viewing experiences so far. I feel like I've let everybody down because it's only been 3. But there are 3 distinct ones. My first one was with, close friends who were all Star Wars fans, my husband and Claudia, who's been on the show before. And we went 10 o'clock that Thursday, the 17th, and it was mayhem at the theater. I don't know if it was mayhem where you guys were. It was absolute mayhem. People losing their minds and excited. There's this man standing in the middle of the arc light, and he's by himself. There's nobody else with him. And he looks to it was like a sky scream. He looks to the sky and says, "I'm so effing excited." Except he didn't say effing, he said the word. And people just running down, everyone was lining, people running down and giving each other high fives and everything. So it was a joyful experience. And then to see the movie and have it give me exactly, all what I wanted. It was a good movie. It was a great movie, and it was a great experience. And then the second time, we went to see it Christmas Day, and I took my stepdaughter, and she's 22, and she doesn't go to the movies. She doesn't watch television. All she does is she likes to read books and listen to music. That's her thing. And so
smart person.
She's a smart.
Nice.
She's a smart person. I've known her since she was a baby. I couldn't even get her to watch a Star Trek episode without her laughing at me. She makes me feel good.
Okay.
So Christmas. Went to see it. It was packed again, and she loved it. And she's very judgy when it comes to movies, because she really likes solid storytelling. But she loved it. And she came out, she cried with Han Solo, because she did watch the movies when she was a kid, because I did that force that upon her. But there's also a little thing that she's totally in love with Adam Driver and Oscar Isaac, so I think that may have had something to do with it.
Okay, so did she cry at Kylo Ren, or did she make any sort of noise when he took his helmet off and revealed his beautiful locks?
Hair. I think there's an eye roll with the hair. Even she was.
So in the theater, you could hear her roll her eyes. It was
you can hear my stepdaughter's eye roll from miles away. Classic adolescent. And then the third time, I took a couple people that are fans of the Star Wars universe. I mean, they know what you need to know, and they loved it too. They thought it was a really well done movie. And a friend of mine I've known who had seen it, and it was like her third time, and she still cried during Han Solo. But she's a little older than me, and she was like, "No, I was old enough when the first movie came out to be absolutely in love as an adolescent with Han Solo. So
Right.
every time she sees him die, it wasn't just tears. It was I heard this. I was like,
Oh, wow.
I was like, oh man,
Big.
sorry. Yeah.
I think that's
Wow.
what's so powerful about it, besides just it working well in the story, is that for so many people, Han Solo is your dad, he's your brother, he's your
Yeah.
boyfriend.
Yeah.
And people have attached to him so much. So we've heard 2 crying stories from you and 1 screaming at the sky swearing story. But my final question is, did you cry at any point during the Force
I
Awakens?
did cry to the second movie.
Okay.
I think I was just in the suspended state of awesomeness.
Yeah, the first one,
time I saw
yeah.
it. And in the second one, I wish I could remember exactly what scene it was, but I know it was with Rey, and it just it wasn't in like a monumental scene. It was an informational scene. I just started crying.
Just some Rey exposition just nailed you.
Rey exposition just had me crying. I think it was like it really hit me. Oh my goodness, I'm here. I'm watching this movie. They did it. They did a good job.
And was it a connection to Rey that affected?
I do feel very strongly
Yeah.
for Rey.
Yeah.
I do.
Awesome.
What formats did you see it all in?
The first, I haven't seen IMAX. The first one, we saw it with the Atmos sound and 3D, which I don't like 3D. I don't know how you guys are. And the next 2 was just with the sound.
Okay.
And the last time, just because I was with friends who really weren't invested in the movie, we saw it on a smaller screen.
Okay.
But the first 2 were on really nice screens. Not
No,
IMAX,
I'm with
so.
you on the 3D because of the bespectacled
too,
part.
yeah.
But for IMAX, it wasn't that much of a bit. I wish it was just solid IMAX and not IMAX 3D. But
Yeah.
I will say the IMAX 3D super solid, and I would recommend
Yeah.
it. Oh yeah.
That's good to
Yeah,
know. And
yeah.
I heard that the one thing I didn't do, which I think you did, I don't know if you did, it was what is it? Is it the Egyptian? What's the theater on Hollywood?
The Chinese, Grauman's
Or
Chinese.
No,
Yeah.
where they play music before that one.
Oh, El Capitan.
That's El Capitan, the Disney
Yeah.
one. And I went to both of those, and they're both fun to go to because they're
Yeah.
both an experience. It's not just
Yeah.
a movie; it's sort of a spectacle. Yeah, and that was great.
Yeah.
So yeah, I would suggest El Capitan if you can. There's something really funny about the laser light show because it's almost awesome. It's
Most
Aren't all
of the
laser light
pre-shows,
shows-
most of the pre-shows at the El Capitan are almost
Almost awesome.
It fits Star Wars really well because we talk a lot about this show. Like we love the good things, and then the weird things are like that's fun because that's almost good, but it's just weird. And
Yeah.
it's very much
Wars, I guess.
it's very much like that. And you are of the age like it feels like shouldn't Pink Floyd be playing? It's that kind of laser light show. Like I think I smell marijuana just because lights are flashing.
And I have seen a Pink Floyd laser light show, of course. I'm a child of the 80s. I also saw a ZZ Top one, which was so bad.
Was it just laser legs?
It was.
just
You know
walking
what?
for 40 minutes.
Yes, it was because they would put the video like in the middle of it was like in a planetarium thingy,
Okay.
and so they'd have like these lasers going everywhere, and then play a video in the middle. Oh no! What they did, that song? I'm just looking for some tush.
Yes, I'm familiar with that.
So
Beautiful song. All right. Yes, Asma.
I can't finish
Asma
the story.
Hill.
I'm sorry.
Okay, that's fine. I think this is officially the farthest off point for Star Wars we've ever got of the
I'll
ZZ
tell
Top
you
laser
after.
light show.
I'll tell you after because it's
Leading to
very funny.
Inhaler. So thank you for being here, Audrey. Go ahead and take a moment to take care of yourself while Mark leads us into the news.
Let's go to news from the Holonet. All right, so we got a couple of fun things to talk about. First things first. One of the biggest things to drop this past week was the trailer for Part 2 of Rebels Season 2. And we're going to throw out a bit of a spoiler warning right now. It's been out there. It's kind of a sizzle of everything that's to come, and it spoils some big reveals. So wait until you get the double thumbs up if you're watching live. If you're not watching live, well, just fast forward a bit.
Yeah.
This was possibly the most cinematic trailer
beautiful.
to expect
Yes.
from a TV series on the Disney Channel.
Yeah, absolutely. It looked gorgeous, and then it was not spoilers because it's officially released.
Yes.
But maybe TMI. Like
Yeah,
to the
maybe
point
TMI.
where I don't know if you guys saw Dave Filoni's tweet.
Yeah, I saw that.
Where he put out a tweet that said basically, "Hey, we've got this amazing trailer for the rest of season 2. If you don't want to watch it, that's cool because there's a lot of reveals in it. But if you're
There
the kind of
are.
person who does, go for it." And I thought that was like really cool that he did that. And then I was honestly trying to decide should I watch it or not. And then like all of the news, entertainment news ran with photos that were reveals. So I'm starting to get to the point of like, there's no point. I don't have any choice anymore.
Yeah.
I'm just going to see everything because that's just the world we live in now.
Yeah.
What do you think was the biggest thing to come out of the trailer?
Like the biggest thing I'm anticipating.
Yeah.
I think is and we are talking about what we saw in the
Yeah,
trailer. so
absolutely.
it's fine.
Spoiler down.
Is the Ahsoka Vader? They're gonna go at it. I don't know, and that kind of I was telling Mark before the show, it kind of stabbed me in the heart because I'm really worried. I'm really nervous about that.
Mm-hmm.
I also like seeing Princess Leia as an adolescent. This is before the original trilogy, her coming in. I thought that was kind of neat, and of course seeing Yoda was neat. But the one that was like, oh my God, Ahsoka and Vader.
Yeah. I think for me, I would have liked to not know that all these characters are popping up, so you could just be amazed that Yoda
especially
shows
Yoda.
up in the middle of an episode.
Especially Yoda.
But I think just emotionally, hearing Anakin say, "You don't know what I've become," that has such emotional weight. That's another thing that's it makes me excited, and I hope that is not the absolute emotional high point of that scene. But to me, there's a possibility that it could be because as a fan, a fan of any part of the story, that one sentence has so much weight. The idea that you'd ever hear Anakin reflect on, "I've become something horrible," is so powerful.
And
right.
I like how Ahsoka's going to show Ezra, hey, they're going to talk about her master, and I wonder if she's going to reveal anything about it. About sensing Anakin in there, because kind of with Kanan a little bit, he's familiar, isn't that weird? I've seen him before, but nothing like seeing the redesign of Anakin 2 was kind of cool. Like, oh, look at this guy. He's not exactly what we remember from the Clone Wars, but it's
right.
Oh, you mean when they were looking at the little visual?
The hologram.
Yeah, that was cool. I like how all over the spectrum the rest of the season is going to be.
Yeah.
We've got stuff from the original trilogy. We've got stuff from the sequel trilogy. We've got stuff, presumably, from the prequel trilogy with the old master. People have taken the frame and turned up the gamma and revealed Mr. Darth Maul. Just double Maul in here.
Yeah, I don't think he likes being called Mr.
Nah. Sorry, Darth. But the reintroduction of him into the series as a possible hidden master for Ezra. It looks like they're at a Sith temple. The Jedi, seemingly the Jedi temple guards.
Yeah.
And another Inquisitor. Looked like there was
there was a third Inquisitor, and Vader actually interacting with the Inquisitors.
Yes.
Looked like. So there's a lot of cool things.
And I couldn't tell if the Jedi temple cards, they seem to be adversarial to both sides.
Yeah,
right?
we've seen them pop up in the Clone Wars and with those yellow lightsabers, and I think they're there to just sort of protect the temples.
Right. No matter who you are.
Yeah. So maybe
because you could steal a lightsaber. You could find one.
Yeah, and maybe we'll get into more finesse of Kanan and Ezra aren't technically Jedi because there's the sort of Jedi code thing. So who knows with that? I thought a fascinating thing about this trailer in this season in general is it's dancing on the edge of being a show about this group of rebels versus being a show just about what's going on in the Star Wars galaxy at this time.
Yeah.
And I feel like I think a lot of the stuff that we're excited for is just what's the story of the galaxy right now. And I hope that we keep managing to just kind of see it through these characters' eyes, because I think that is a more interesting story than just following kind of random rebels having random adventures.
Absolutely, and it really helps the viewer get emotionally attached to what's happening through that group of rebels' eyes, and rather than it just being like a one long news story. I mean, you're really attached to them and seeing how they react to the news or the happenings in the galaxy. I don't know. It's just the show's just so well written and portrayed.
It's a good mark. There are several animated shows out right now that start off as like, well, here's a fun group of characters that you can get invested in, and then all of a sudden the world opens up and it becomes this really deep and nuanced thing. And luckily we're getting it with a Star Wars show. With a Star Wars show.
Yeah.
Does anybody think, since we saw the one tease in the trailer with the crossguard lightsaber, that Ezra's going to get rid of his saber blaster and pick up an older model, so to speak?
Oh, I think there's a...
But do you think that's more of just like, what's this? And we get that moment of, oh, that's where that came from.
And then he puts it down.
like Finn picks up the orb training thing and throws it away in episode 7.
I hope that he makes the crossguard lightsaber shoot things too, because I kind of like his little shooty lightsaber.
Yeah.
But symbolically, that would probably work well, that I had this one that was kind of blaster, kind of lightsaber, because, that's always been used in Star Wars of like, you accept your destiny when you put the blaster down and say, this is not my weapon anymore, like that great shot in Empire where Luke looks at his blaster and it's got no point here. So I could see them continuing that story and going to crossguard crossguard and probably selling more Ezra toys if he has a crossguard lightsaber.
Were you guys excited or disappointed to see that they brought the crossguard into the...
Excited.
Yeah, I want to see how it's handled. I want to see that it's handled well. I've been on such an emotional roller coaster with the crossguard lightsaber. I'm not really feeling like it was trying too hard to just be different to be different when I saw the very first trailer. And then when I saw how well it mirrored Kylo Ren's character and the fact that it's powered by a cracked lightsaber and those weren't crossguards, but it was just venting. I liked all that.
Yeah.
And now to see like a clean, clear, specific crossguard lightsaber where maybe the point is to be a crossguard. We'll see how it's handled.
It was mentioned in the description of Ren's lightsaber that it was an ancient design. So either way, the implications are we're going to see some history with the Jedi, and I like that part about it.
Absolutely.
As well as let's see how this ends up working.
Yeah.
And it feeds fuel to the fire of the totally incorrect rumor that Kylo Ren was Ezra, which I thought was funny. And maybe they may be acknowledging it just as kind of a fun button.
I didn't even hear that rumor. I didn't know that.
So many rumors out there.
But it's still Adam Driver, and he's still really young. Anyway, all right, so that was our...
Well, he has the right hair.
Yeah.
That's why the rumor.
But a little too blue.
True.
Marvel announced that there is going to be a Poe Dameron comic coming out. This one is a little bittersweet because the Kanan comic is going to be ending pretty soon, but it did get an extended run. Right now, this comic is going to be an ongoing one.
Awesome.
So it's not going to be like a mini-series like we've had in the past couple ones. And it's just going to be moving forward. There's an unannounced antagonist. We don't know what part of Poe's life this is necessarily going to be, but what do you want to see from the most crackshot pilot in the Resistance?
I want to see more of what we'll discuss this later in the show of what we saw in Before the Awakening in the book. You know, his coming to leaving fighting for the Republic and joining the Resistance and his adventures there. I'd like to see a lot of that, and also the people, what we read in the book, how he feels about his comrades and stuff. So I'd also like to know, because he's very loyal to them and everything, and I'd like to get to know those people a little better too, and the more see him just get more and more angry at the First Order.
Agreed.
Yeah, I think just like we were talking about with Rebels, he's the perfectly placed TFA character to have just fun adventures, but also for us to learn a lot about the galaxy through his eyes.
And especially if he's going to be flying around the galaxy a lot.
Yeah.
And he's closer to the politics of what's going on because he is so close to the Republic, and I find that fascinating. And he has a lot of baggage, you know? I mean, not baggage, I mean just his parents were... History, thank you. His history is not baggage. He has a lot of history as far as fighting his parents in the rebellion and the Battle of Endor and everything.
The thing I love about his character, too, is I keep describing him as everybody's older, sexy brother. Like, he's just so supportive.
And I just want to see him. You ruined everything I think about Poe Dameron, because now I'm going to think he's like my brother.
Well,
thanks a lot.
He's like your brother. When we know there's gray area in the Star Wars galaxy for that, so you're cool. So I just want to see him be supportive of people. Just fly around to planets and like thumbs up him, like, you're doing a good job, Solistans. Bye.
Find someone to do an X-wing high five as he flies by everybody.
That's one hell of a pilot. Are there any other Force Awakens characters you want to see a comic made of?
I do. I want to see a comic on Maz Kanata.
Oh, yeah.
I just think that she's been alive for 1,000 years. She's got these eyes and these lenses that could look into your soul and tell you who you are, and also, she's Force sensitive. That's a fact. But she never trained as a Jedi, and just all the comings and goings. What could be in that castle? All the caverns and rooms and stuff. I just think it's so history, and she's such an interesting person.
Even if it's just like a History Channel style, like, I remember when I got this, and then it just flashes back.
No, that would be great, too.
Yeah. I'd be so down.
Yeah. Basically like Tales from the Crypt, sort of the host of the show.
Tales from the Castle.
Yeah, Maz's Tales. I'd be thrilled with a Han comic, because I think there's some other just good areas to explore where it doesn't affect canon, and you can just have some fun adventures, so the universe doesn't get too crowded. Yeah. And same thing with Laura Santeca, because we know that he was an adventurer, so it'd be fun to see his adventures.
Absolutely, that would be neat.
Both be well told in the medium of comics.
Agreed. I think I would like one of Luke, because if we get more in the history of him, if we got a book like this for Luke, I would absolutely love that. Or Kylo or Ben in training.
Oh,
I think
like the
like
worst,
the good times,
like the worst young adult novels ever, because he would be like just super pouty Harry Potter. Would just be like Order of the Phoenix Harry Potter all the time.
It's a good pull. That's exactly what I want to see. I think it's gonna be a lot of fun.
Wow.
I'm needless to say though, this Poe comic is gonna probably do pretty gangbusters.
I think so.
Yeah. Also this week, it was just sort of a fun look back. Star Wars Newsnet went and found an old video of George Lucas's thoughts on Luke Skywalker past Return of the Jedi, and ultimately it was that he wanted Luke to be a family man. What does this affect how he's treated in the film at all, or how you think about Rey's parentage? How does this really affect your thoughts on that?
Well, I mean, it'd be it'd make all the people that want Rey to be Luke's daughter at that camp very happy, basically,
Yes.
if that was true. I mean, that's about as much as I've thought about it.
Yeah, to me, it's some really fun deep digging in terms of trying to justify rumors or perspectives, because this is an old interview of Gene Siskel where Mark Hamill is reporting what George Lucas allegedly told him. Like, this is not like admissible in Star Wars court, so to speak.
I thought it was fun though.
Oh, I think it's great.
Was.
I'm really glad you brought it up. And Gene Siskel says, does Lucas want Luke to be a father? And Hamill's like, well, I can't say, but you're a very smart man, Gene Siskel. So it's totally this wink, wink, nod, nod thing. It's great rumor stuff. Really, really great video to watch. But no, I feel like I am starting to be just in the camp that Rey is Luke Skywalker's daughter, because that just makes the most sense with sort of Star Wars lore. And I think we're in this period of just sort of double fake out where it feels too obvious to us. So we're going to come up with all of the most ridiculous theories that we possibly can, that she's actually the child of a Rancor. Like, we're going to come up with everything. So I think maybe by the time we see the movie, of like, oh yeah, the logical thing. That's fine.
Oh, okay, I'm good with that. I agree. I thought this was fun, even though technically now this interview is Legends. I still think it's fun to look back at that content from now and again. But speaking of wink, wink, nudge, nudge, Benicio del Toro is back in the news. He, now that we've seen Force Awakens, he was rumored previously to be taking on a villain role in Episode 8.
Yeah.
He kind of said, they're thinking about me for a villain. And then he said, I shouldn't have said that. I'm sorry. And I was like, you know what? Whatever. Think what you want to think. So now in a post-Force Awakens world, where do you want to see Benicio del Toro pop up?
Well, because of that interview, I can only think of him as a villain right now. I can't think of him as anything else. And we just watched Sicario,
right?
Where he's just, oh man,
he's an anti-hero. He's a very, very good anti-hero.
He's an anti-hero,
yeah.
and there's that too. Somebody whose sense of justice is so strong that they're willing to do all the dark side stuff.
Right, the grizzled vet who's willing to do anything.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I find that would be interesting as well.
Yeah, so I kind of think that he's going to have a very small role. For the rest of the sequel trilogy, I'm going to just kind of have Captain Phasma mindset and feel like any cool people are going to be smaller roles, because we have so much story to tell and so many main characters we didn't spend enough time with in The Force Awakens. So I would love it if he was some sort of scummy sort of dealer guy who maybe sold like spice, because we've never really seen the actual
so it's Dune.
Drug trade.
No, sorry.
Well, the drugs.
That's a good.
It's a good pull, and it's a problem with Star Wars because that's what drugs are in Star Wars land too. They're spices. When Han dropped spices that he was smuggling for Jabba, that was drugs of some kind. So it'd be fun if he was like maybe some kind of like intergalactic sort of drug dealer, but also like sort of eBay for space and like had Vader memorabilia.
Maybe what I would like to see him as, and not just because I absolutely love the movie, his portrayal as the Collector in Guardians of the Galaxy was so fun, but he was still a bad guy.
Yeah.
So if we get like sort of, I see him as, I would like to see him as an irredeemable Lando type character who's a smuggler guy who's like very affable and very charming, but he's gone so far as I can't.
There's no heart of gold to be found underneath.
No heart of gold.
That would be really cool.
Yeah, because then people go, "Oh, cool! He's the new Lando. My God, what is he doing?"
But he has no regrets. Like,
but he has no regrets. Like, it's just business.
Sorry, it was better for me.
Yep.
Eat dinner with Darth Vader. I don't care.
He chose the menu. Regardless, but like Sicario, all of his roles, he tends to you see him really enjoying himself, no matter how hard or difficult the role may be. So either way, we're going to get a good performance.
Yeah, I think he's going to make a small role really memorable.
Absolutely.
And speaking of small roles that are memorable, the Academy Award nominations were announced last week, and Star Wars The Force Awakens was nominated for 5. Those 5 being Best Score, Best Film Editing, Best Sound Editing, Best Visual Effects, and Best Sound Mixing. Were there any other categories that you would have want to see Star Wars represented?
When I think of the Oscars, that was not surprising what they did get nominated for, and I think anybody who thought they would be nominated in or represented in the actor categories or director categories were wishing upon a star. I didn't see that coming. It's harder for genre films anyway.
Definitely.
I think maybe as this next trilogy goes forward, I think maybe by the end, Ray can probably pull off a Best Actress nom.
Yeah.
In the same way that Ian McKellen did for Lord of the Rings once they get a lot of weight under
gravitas,
under their role. But I was definitely expecting the special effects and sound, and I was not surprised by that.
I agree with you about not being surprised, but I feel Harrison Ford was robbed.
I think Harrison Ford should have been nominated.
Perfect for supporting actor.
Okay.
Absolutely, because I feel like people are not taking seriously the immense challenge of that role of play a legendary, iconic character, play him exactly as he should be, but also several decades older. And
sounds familiar. Kind of like Sylvester Stallone nominated for Creed.
Yeah.
So it's like that's the thing that's already happening.
Yeah.
Like, but this, it's not the 70s, but we got 2 movies with Rocky Balboa and Han Solo in it.
Right.
Like, what?
Right. I hadn't even made that connection.
Yeah.
Good pull on you.
So that's why I went. There are a lot of actors that got snubbed for their roles this year, especially in Creed. But I think 100% Harrison Ford should have been nominated.
I also feel like Kasdan and J.J. Abrams and Michael Arndt, however much of his script is still there, really made a point of writing dialogue in a really minimal way in which the actor has to fill in a ton. And I think Harrison Ford in particular did that amazingly, and that's a very specific... It's not a flashy acting challenge, but it's a huge acting challenge, and I think he knocked it out of the park.
Yeah, and I think out of any movie this year, I bet you more people cried over his ending than any other movie out there.
Yeah.
There are more tears shed for Han Solo, but it's just like with these award shows, they just never really dip into the genre world that much.
Well, they don't dip a lot into the popular culture too much,
Yeah.
so everybody's super surprised about how much Mad Max was
but
nominated.
Charlize Theron, there's
Charlize
a role.
Theron,
She was definitely snubbed, in that, and I think even Tom Hardy could have pulled off nomination too, because I've seen a lot of those movies where people were nominated. I'm just like, really? They're cookie cutter movies. They're
Academy bait.
Academy
What
bait.
of these awards do you think they're going to win?
So what was it? Sound
Editing, film editing, sound mixing, visual effects, and score.
I'm very cynical right now because whenever there's a movie that's on a roll before awards season, it doesn't matter how good the movie is. Right now, I think Revenant is on a roll, and everybody's just going to be checking that box. I think they should get all of them.
Yeah.
I think it should be them or Mad Max.
Yeah.
Honestly,
I think
the score. Did you say score?
Score.
Yeah, score. Absolutely, I love that score.
Yeah, I don't think they can get score
I don't
because of Hateful Eight, because Hateful Eight is nominated for Morricone. So I think there's just no way.
Yeah. And that guy's a legend. So.
But people are thinking it might be John Williams last time doing the score, and he won't come back for 8. So
maybe
it might be like a legacy thing, like where it's not for the movie, but it's for the career.
They have 2 amazing composers going up for legacy awards is the problem.
Right, that is true.
I think there's a lot that I really like Mad Max more for, despite absolutely loving Force Awakens and thinking it's a lot more fun of a movie. But I would like for them to win at least the sound stuff. The sound mixing. Ben Burt, and like you mentioned, for the dialogue, leaving much to like the effects and everything. Even like one of the most striking things from the beginning of that movie is the sound of that frozen blaster bolt.
Yes.
And all of that in that first scene just exploded with this is Star Wars now, get ready. So all of the sound stuff I 100% think they deserve.
Awesome.
Oh, jeez. It's hard.
Well, we're going to move on now to our main topic for the show, Before the Awakening. And we hope everybody has had a chance to read the book. If you haven't had a chance to read the book, go ahead and push pause, read the book in like 3 hours.
Yeah.
It's about all it takes, about 3 hours.
Half-hour
and
chapter.
then
Zip right through it.
come back and enjoy with us. It is by Greg Rucka. It is a part of this great line of, I think they're being called young adult novels, but they're written very stylishly, but very simply and straightforward.
Yep.
And it goes along with the other books, Moving Target, The Weapon of a Jedi, and Smuggler's Run, focusing on Luke, Han, and Leia. And they've all got little great things that pop up or don't pop up in The Force Awakens, because this is all sort of marketing plan before final cut of The Force Awakens. This one is written by Greg Rucka. What were you guys' general reactions to these individual stories of Poe, Finn, and Rey? Did you feel like the whole book came together well? Did you have a favorite story? What are your general reactions?
My general reaction is I really enjoyed it, and like you said, it's a very quick read, and it really, I already had thoughts about the three characters, Poe, Rey, and Finn, and it really finished the painting of each character, which I thought were, the portrayal of each character, or the way that, it's the albuterol is making me very speedy right now. It's going to make me talk faster. I'm just
No problem.
You should have seen me in Vegas.
I don't think there's anything.
It's just, I already had in my mind what I thought about these three characters, and this was like filling in some of the blanks, and I really, really, really did enjoy that. And I was, as I've said before, I was really attached to Rey's story, and I think that's because as a reader, there's always a connecting character for you, and for me it's Rey. Just she has this yearning and longing that I can relate to, with my own personal life and everything, and I really loved her story the most.
Cool.
But they're all good.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
And we'll talk about each one individually as well. But Mark, what were your general reactions to the overall book?
I think each individual story is well put together and well crafted, but I wasn't, just because they're in one book, I wasn't expecting and then one day they'll all meet. Like I wasn't expecting like an overarching story between the three of them. But I like how stylized each story was. Yeah. And it spoke to each of the characters, and having and we're going to talk about it more, but having a situation in Finn's story and seeing how the First Order operates to seeing how the Republic operates and the Resistance operates and how similar they were was pretty interesting. Yeah,
it did a great job of not only telling us who the characters were. I think ultimately it's like these little slice of life that shows us who the characters are, but because of the way we've seen The Force Awakens and wondered about the cultures that they're growing up in, it's also kind of a story of the cultures. And the thing that I was really pleased with is not only enjoying the individual stories, but I feel like they were kind of connected with this overall theme of sort of nature versus nurture, of how much are these people being shaped by the circumstance that they're in, and how much are they deciding for themselves, who do I look up to, who do I want to be, what is just sort of my internal truth versus what is being fed to me. So I really like that overall theme of how do you become an individual?
Because you couldn't have three people with more different upbringings, you know, and still that one theme that you're talking about, it still brings them all together without having to overlap, like you said, Mark.
Yeah, there's no being hit over the head with any maces. There's some nice mace work in this. So we're going to dive in a little bit to, we'll go in order into Finn's story. One of the things that we discover is that Finn is a great fighter and leader in simulations, in these simulated, almost holodeck-like battles that the First Order are trained in.
We don't use that word.
They're a little holodecky.
We're not trekking around. It's a war, dang it.
We're warzing, not trekking. So learning that he is awesome, at least in simulations, and maybe not totally tested in real-life battle when there are real circumstances. Do you guys feel like that tracked with the Finn we met in The Force Awakens?
I felt it did track, and I felt that it helped explain a little more why, when he did get into a combat situation in Force Awakens, when he did, because he was always running from the fight, when he did actually engage, why he did so well, especially, was always like, why did he last so long with Kylo Ren, even though Kylo was injured and everything? It's like, after reading this, it's like, oh, okay, he's got some really good skills with a Z.
He's hotshot skills. I think it fits along with him because in the last simulation we see him run by himself. He has the realization like, this is just a game. This isn't
it's
anything.
not real.
So he we see what he had been thinking through all of that, and once he was thrust into an actual situation, he's like, that, no.
Yeah, yeah, and I liked how much there was. It painted the picture of the indoctrination that the First Order does. So early on, when he's doing well in the video game holodeck simulation, he is feeling like he knows what he's fighting for. And then when he starts to have doubt about what he's fighting for, he's not as good. So that I hadn't really thought about it that way. But then that's what we see in the Force Awakens is he sort of activates his skills with a Z. Once he knows who and what he is fighting for.
Exactly.
Yeah, because you're right, because he runs and runs and runs until he really knows.
Yeah.
I want to stand. I know what's going on. I know why I'm shooting the people I'm shooting. I know why I'm picking up this lightsaber.
And they did do a good job of explaining, giving you little bits of the First Order that we didn't know, like exactly what you were just talking about. After that first simulation, Phasma, you say, no, you do leave a man behind. We're not, it's not the United States Marines where no man's left behind, It's like, no, you do leave him behind. And so you got to see that this has been bubbling in him for a while. He realized that this is just a game, this is real. So that's why it helps make it such a big decision, a grand decision when he decides to make the choice in Force Awakens to leave.
And you were speaking to the indoctrination. It helped bring the line of traitor with seemingly FN2 on 99 to a head of here's Finn seeing all of this propaganda like, hey, we helped liberate this thing, long live the First Order. Everyone's like, yeah, and he's like, yeah, sure, whatever. But everybody's super excited about it. And yet there was also the implication that he was a loner in his own squadron.
Yeah.
So
because he didn't have a nickname.
He was kind of apart, and they didn't, especially near the end, they started to resent him because of all of the stuff that Phasma was seemingly handing to him.
And because of his skills.
Yeah.
So that made it a little bit harder to believe that was somebody from his own squadron, unless something happened in the troop transport in between Phasma saying you're getting deployed to Jakku and us seeing the whole squadron for the first time.
Yeah.
Unless something happened in there where they're like, hey man, this is our first thing, I'm real sorry about everything. Yeah, and unless something happened where they totally made amends, it kind of brought that back for me.
Okay, I feel like the anger makes sense because of how much we were showed them living together and truly being like the only social unit. So even if he was kind of aware, even if Nines or TR-8R as the internet likes to call him, if he was aware that Finn was kind of slipping and being different or other, I think there's still that bond of loyalty. It's a different thing to see him running around with the enemy.
Yeah.
I think
fair play.
Interesting through line, though, you had mentioned slip, is in that first simulation that where we read, it's Slip that's being left behind, right?
Yeah.
And he goes back. And that's Slip who dies on Jakku and does the red blood smear, right?
Yeah.
So that also I thought was a good callback to him starting on his journey.
Yes, certainly that this is a person that he knows. Yeah, so I thought all the sort of the socialization and the indoctrination was really interesting because it echoed the Clone Wars, what we see in the Clone Wars animated series, that the little squads really know each other and have personality and interactions within them. And I like seeing that it wasn't this super sort of science fiction-y, like they're just isolated and trained and they're not, robots. They're socialized in a way that happens in the real world of like, we're going to teach you what to believe. We're going to teach you that only we're right, and anybody who opposes us is, of course, on the wrong side of things.
Yeah.
So what was your sense in the book of why that indoctrination didn't work on Finn?
I think historically, just in, mankind, in human history, there are always outliers in every situation. They come every once in a while, and I think Finn is an outlier. He's been training since he was a kid. He was, and there's just something in his brain mechanics that made him a little different, made him the loner, made him a little separated, and made him question right from wrong. What am I fighting for? And I think it's just a unique experience that he's an outlier. And also in the movie, when he mentions, I was taken from my family to Poe, and he mentions that, I think for some reason it made me think that Finn probably thought a lot harder about that than his crewmates and his squad and everything. I think that stuck with him since they did mention it in the movie, and that probably never left him, and that kind of guided him.
Yeah, and I like that it's not just that he is such a hero that he realizes this is evil and wrong, and but more just I've always felt kind of different. I just can't quite gel with everybody else.
He even
so that
questions himself.
It pushes him towards that choice because he's got to make a choice, either to pretend to be someone other than he is, or to do something. And running away seems like a good idea. What do you think about? What did you get about why he resisted believing what First Order wanted him to?
I think it goes a little bit further back than what we got a chance to read. I think if we saw like the Leonidas and 300, like the kid like fighting circles, or like the early like classroom style indoctrination where we can see his initial reactions to stuff and him accepting that. I think it's really just one of those different kids. And if anything, I would like to think he inspired more First Order troops to be like, I don't know.
What's this all about?
Everybody keeps talking about FN 2187 and how great he was, but he changed sides. That's weird.
So that's not right.
We're doing pretty good, but he decided to. So I think it's something that we haven't seen yet, but he's just one of those different eggs.
I like the picture that it fits with the movie to me, that he is a little bit awkward, where like he can't maybe like he really wants to fit in, like he's the guy who comes and running over like, can I play too? No, why not? I'm too smart, I'm too good. I went back to try to help somebody. I didn't eat he can't. I get the sense from the book in particular, like I just want to fit in, but he can't, from the perspective of other people, ever do it right. So he's just like, screw you guys.
Without First Order training, this is like the story of my life.
It's the story of a lot of people's lives,
being socially awkward, trying to fit in, but you're doing the right thing, but it just doesn't work.
I was trying to help somebody. He was like going to die, and he was like, no, you leave him. What? That doesn't make any sense.
And when we've talked about where his character will go, and we've sort of pontificated that maybe he'll be the kind of the ground troop leader. I think it was John Roca in particular who said, like, maybe he'll really lead the armies on the ground of the resistance, and knowing that he has that sort of training in that confidence to be like, no, if it's not a video game, I can figure out how to do it, I can lead. That's really cool to see in the book as well. So we're going to move on to Rey's story. Rey's story was, I think, the most emotionally powerful in some ways, but partially because it's a story about being alone, which is, it's one thing to be in a social group and be ostracized, but then to just actually be totally alone is pretty amazing. I liked what we saw of her character, that she's both very tough and vulnerable. That tracked. We learned that both her staff is for protection and that she trained herself to fight with it because she has to, but we also learned that she doesn't know what a smile or a cookie is.
She lost her smile.
There's the description of that her cheeks felt funny and she wasn't sure why.
They
and then
hurt.
She ate a small circular sugary thing that seemed to taste good.
She liked that.
Yeah, and she really liked that. Like, oh wow, is that powerful writing? You don't know what a smile or a cookie is. So what details made her character click, or did the character click for you in the story to the movie?
I think what you said right there it was very powerful, and it goes with the line in the movie. I never thought there was this much green.
I hadn't thought about that.
It's that naivete, but at the same time, there's that part in the book where she recalls nobody messes with her on Jakku because they've all seen her fight. So she's one strong lady, and it's all my cough medicine. I'm sorry.
No,
it's fine.
Mike, what are your thoughts?
I like, this was probably my favorite story of the three, because I heard Daisy Ridley in my head. Like this was like if I was reading the script. I liked everything that we saw about Rey. Like that. I mean, I don't know what else to say, because it gave her. Also, just because you mentioned it in a different point, the only thing about this book is I want to go back farther.
I found myself thinking that too.
Because I thought we were gonna see, like, I know it's all directly leading up to the movie, but it said days, weeks, months. So we spent months with Rey in the scavenging process. But I wanted to see how she found home in that AT-AT. And at what age she kind of woke up to the realization of, I'm here without my parents. Like, that's the, I really like the story because it does fit with her, and also all of the backstory that we got about why she's such a great pilot.
Yeah,
is all stuff that fits.
Yeah, for me, I feel like Rey is the most challenging one because I kind of think her story is she lands there, if we are to believe her vision, Unkar Plot grabs her and is somehow taking care of her,
right.
and then clearly sets her out on her own. So I think there's maybe some story right around there when she's 5, and then I think until we meet her until The Force Awakens, it's kind of just more of this, like. I had a hard time. I built a staff. I beat some people up. I found an ad. Like
it's
I feel
all
like
it's all survival. I mean, it's all Wild West. It's all trying to get portions, basically, and it's also not the first time that she had a chance to leave.
Yeah,
you know?
And the fact, I think that is really powerful. The fact that she is so determined, and that's I think what sets her apart from like the Luke or Anakin stories, where they were on a desert planet, kind of lonely and kind of dreaming. And she is not dreaming. She's super realistic and super determined to not leave, which is such a great twist on the Luke and Anakin stories. So, do you guys feel like, was there anything about her life that you sort of liked or thought was good? And I ask this because we see these scenes where she is living alone in her AT-AT, and she hooks up this old sort of flight simulator game, which is basically she is playing video games. She is basically playing Rogue Squadron alone in an AT-AT. And I was reading this whole thing, being emotionally moved, and then it was like, you get to be alone, living in an AT-AT, just playing video games with no one to bother you?
It's a dream.
It's a part of me like,
I think my 7-year-old godson would really love
this sounds
that.
actually kind of nice.
Yeah.
And it's partially a facetious question, but also like, do you feel like there are little moments of joy like that in her life, or does it feel like it's just all hard luck?
To me, it felt hard. I mean, even if Unkar's the one that raised her until she was off on her own, I don't think there was much joy there. The fact that, that her face hurt when she smiled leads me to believe that there's not a lot of good things. I think she did a lot of like escaping in her mind when she had the simulator, when she got to do all the flight simulations, which I also think was a great for The Force Awakens, knowing why she can fly so well. I think those were her moments where she can escape, and those are the good times. But everything else, no, I think it's sad. But she doesn't know any different.
Yeah.
That's the thing, is she doesn't know any different. It's fine. This is life for her.
It feels like she's settled into the banality of what her life is.
Yeah.
And the fact that the ship and getting all of those, and I definitely think there may have been good times, but she doesn't know what those are.
Right.
So her means to an end is, if I don't have to work so that when my family comes, that I can be okay.
Mm-hmm.
Like, she's just thinking about, if I get food and water, then I don't have to work as hard, so that when they're here, I can stay alive to see my family. She really has the most pure outlook on the rest of her life, which is, all I got to do is stay alive, and then my family will come
that's why I
rescue
don't
me.
need to bring more people into it. I don't need other people in it, and so that's why it was such a big deal that she didn't trust Devi and what's the other guy's name?
Oh, yeah, I can't remember off the top of my head,
the
but-
2 people that came in. She didn't want to trust them. She didn't want to trust them, and then that. And you knew, as a reader, you knew what was coming, and it was killing you. But that as soon as she trusted them, she was betrayed. And when she watched the ship go away, it was almost like, that's business as usual.
Yep.
I gotta go back
exactly,
to
because there wasn't like,
it's another
and it
Banjo-Koo.
crushed me, and this and all of that. It was just like, well, I can go back to that Lambda class, see what else they didn't have. And maybe get
I
more
also
out of that.
took it as she expected to be betrayed, and the heartbreaking thing of like, I want to be around people, so I will trust a little bit. But I think she expected to be betrayed in that they're gonna steal it and get all of the portions from Unkar.
Not
that
leave.
it never occurred to her. So there's that bittersweet thing of like, they did betray me like I thought, but it's kind of okay that they did it that way, because I would never have done that. Like, I would beat them to death with my staff if they sold it to Unkar and took my portions. But the fact that they used it
That's
to
a good
leave,
point,
she's sort of like, I would never do that anyway. So
There was that last line as she
they-
was leaving, just like, they're all the portions for us, for all of us. It's gonna be great. We're gonna eat like kings. And it's just like,
no,
well,
not
that's
going to happen,
unfortunate.
right?
Yeah, because she already stated, no, I'm not going to go with you.
Yeah.
And they're like, why?
Yeah.
So they think, okay, fine, portions, whatever. That was like, okay. So something I did realize while reading this in terms of identifying Rey as a character is her, like, knowing that this is her day in, day out more so.
Yeah.
And how she starved herself in order to try to get food. And being around all of these parts of all of these classic ships fleshes out her knowledge even more so of all different types of ships, especially repairing the Millennium Falcon.
Right.
Like with this ship, which I totally forgot what it was called, but in
Gotrek 6 something.
yeah, 650 or something. With that freighter, with repairing that freighter, it made sense that she knew how the Millennium Falcon operated.
Right.
Not that, she's been on it before and she's just remembering. Like, no, it's like she just deals with these ships all the time.
Yeah,
We just didn't see it.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like she knows how to be creative to make junk work.
Yeah.
Which is really cool. She mentions her parents plural. And specifically mentions at one point lost memories trying to swim to the surface. What does that change any theories for you guys? The fact that she said parents and not parent.
Not so much for me.
No.
And
Yeah.
the lost memories, are you guys taking that as like validation of the whole internet going mind wipe? Of course, she's been mind wiped.
I didn't even think of that.
Yeah, because I mean that's so
Yeah.
strongly what almost every theory about Rey hinges on. Unless she's somebody who her lineage is characters we've never ever met, and she's just strong in the Force. Beyond that theory, almost every other theory hinges on, and she was mind wiped through the Force.
Yeah, because the only solid memory she's had is when she's touched that lightsaber at Maz Kanata's place, right? Where she had a very
and those things are all
specific-
visions, maybe memories. Certainly, some places she could have been, maybe things she wasn't even at.
Past,
Certainly,
future, soon. We don't really know. So
Time is a circle.
so and a flat one too. So you guys didn't lose your minds, throw your books across the room,
No,
go
I did not.
confirmed or anything like that.
oh yes, I finally figured it out.
Okay, cool to see that in there though. So we're gonna keep moving on to Poe. Poe has kind of the meatiest story. I think these stories were really put in the right order. Finn, Rey, and then Poe. We get the political picture that the Republic was both stubborn and a little bit corrupt we didn't know. Do you guys enjoy getting all the politics fleshed out?
I did. I loved it. I loved it so much, because it's just, as far as, human history, it's just history repeating itself. It's like Neville Chamberlain saying, we have peace in our time, which seems to be what the Republic is doing, They think they have this treaty with the First Order, and they're caught up in their own politics while the First Order is just, infringing on all their territory. I thought it was great, and seeing that around Poe, circling around Poe, all the political atmosphere, while he is trying to decide what he's doing with his life, while he's having memories of his childhood. I thought it was a really well done story.
Yeah, it's that kind of ignoring the problem theme. And I think pulled from what Abrams and Kasdan have said, pulled pretty directly from just the policy of appeasement towards Germany in the run-up to World War II.
I was right, the Neville Chamberlain thing.
Yeah. Oh, yeah,
they're
really famous, like, we know they're really powerful and really angry, but we think they're just going to stay there.
Yeah.
So it's
Yeah.
all fine.
Yeah.
They're not going to be around us, though.
Yeah. So
That's
it'll
the
be
good
fun.
And that happens over and over and over and over and over again.
And I
in
like
history.
and that the Force Awakens didn't have its political scenes. It didn't make that stuff super clear. But that stuff has been out there. In larger Star Wars information. The new thing to me in Before the Awakening is that there's also this level of corruption, like we knew in the prequel era. That it's a story about a senator who's secretly working with the First Order.
Yeah, like the big crux being the infiltration of the yacht and finding the information. Did not expect the First Order to show up.
Yeah.
To be honest, I think they wrote that very well.
That
to
was a
make
fun
you think.
surprise.
Just like, they're
Yeah.
going to have to escape without hitting anybody with ships, but it's going to be about piloting, and it still stayed about piloting, but it made it so much more like, what are they What are they planning? Who else? And it made you want to know what other even though you have no idea the state of the Senate in the Republic right now. It made you want to go, how many senators do they have? Did they know about the attack from the movie?
Yeah.
And are any of them even still around anymore?
Yeah.
Like, how far did the First Order go to ensure that they would end up in the best state as opposed to the people that helped them get there.
Yeah, I think it's really well done. I think we also kind of got this political picture because we learned that Poe has sort of grown up as a kid who is hearing constantly about the Galactic Civil War and kind of growing up in this culture of we set the galaxy right, but maybe not forever.
Yeah.
So I really like that politically and what that does for his character too.
And especially what his dad told him, what was, I forget exactly the line, what was it for, will it hold? Or
yeah, he's worried that it was for nothing.
It was for nothing, and so that's imposed. He wants to make sure it wasn't for nothing, that's going to drive him.
Yeah, and I think he's just such a positive, nice guy. Again, talking about like sort of nature versus nurture. Here's a guy who had like a good childhood. Like obviously he lost his mom pretty young, it's clarified. But he's got a loving dad. They have a cool place to live. They work hard. Looks like they have friends. It looks like he really has purpose of I'm going to grow up and be a pilot like my mom. And I think in that
he
kind
rode
of
on
theme
his mom's lap while she was flying. Yeah,
so like really cool, just aesthetic things, but also in that sort of overall theme of nature versus nurture. Like, no wonder he's just such a nice guy. He's like the straight shooter who wasn't as much of the loner who kind of had to play video games until they become woken in the movie that we watched. He's the guy who's already fully formed.
Yeah. And I did like I totally lost my thought that I was going to say. Dang it. But I did like the term victory kid.
Yes.
I thought that was a fun way to reflect politics even more.
Yeah, and I like that they didn't really dwell on it too much. They just said, there are a lot of victory kids.
And then they also said for people that were younger than Poe that they had horror stories about the First Order, not the Empire, and so that everybody was in it together for different motivations, know. And I thought that was neat.
There we go. I liked the how we saw Finn's interaction with his squad and the stormtroopers as a whole versus Poe on almost a familial level with his squadron. And even though we didn't know the fourth member of Rapier Squadron for very long, we knew how important that they were to Poe as well as the rest of the squad.
Right. There's a pretty great mirror image of Captain Phasma saying, no, let the loser die.
Yeah.
And the other people in Rapier Squadron, as it's called, being so concerned.
And I was concerned about, I don't remember which one of the two that was starting to go down at the final confrontation. I was just like, dude, just get out, just go.
Yeah.
I thought for sure they were going to take another one out.
Me too, and I was really, really happy. It was that burst of joy because I expected them to die.
Yeah.
Speaking of the victory kids, here's my facetious question. Do you think there are a lot more Ewoks because of the celebrations on Endor? Did the Ewoks have a lot of celebratory relations after the Death Star 2 blew up?
Well, it depends if they chose to do the thing that makes you have kids, because we're all adults, and that's how you talk about it.
Buying a house.
Spoilers.
Or if they decided to feast on dead stormtroopers or stormtrooper prisoners.
I think it was more of that.
You think they feasted? Feast or sex? I'm not sure which one they were going to go.
So they had baby bumps from eating the stormtroopers.
They had food babies. They had food babies.
I'd say, if anything, the Ewoks were more like the dog that walks into the bedroom and just like. And it was just like that stare that Wicket has when he's like holding the gun. He's just like
the non-special edition unblinking.
Yeah, the unblinking, just staring. It's just a silhouette, but you see the eyes. It's like, well, this isn't happening tonight.
Oh my god!
Nice.
Oh god,
nice.
We got to get out of this system.
One more conversation point about the Poe story. I thought there was great stuff with Leia, and I felt like we got to see a part of Leia that there wasn't room for in The Force Awakens. We mostly see Leia in charge and upset and interacting with Han. So it's great to see sort of charming, witty Leia interact with Poe. Do you guys want to see more of that Leia going forward?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I loved it. And I love Greg Rucka, did I say that correctly? The writer?
Yeah.
He did a great job of describing her, about her eyes, saying so much with what her eyes look like. And sometimes she would be lost in thought, but then she would come back. And Poe and her seemed to automatically understand who the other person was.
Yeah.
And I'd like to see more of that relationship for sure.
Yeah,
Poe
and
Leia,
I love like the lines where she's like, well, I have some witty banter, and then I snap to being serious. Yeah. And I'm the one who's controlling where this conversation is going. She also mentions, she compares Poe to Luke. Did you guys think this was a hint that Poe might be a Force user, or do you think it was just a comparison of flying?
I think it was more of what Audrey said with just them clicking. Like that's some like people argue about Rey and Leia at the end of the movie just kind of coming together and hugging as I think they have that kind of a connection. And I think it's also just Poe's hope.
Yeah.
You know? Like, you could technically spell Poe with an H if you wanted to.
I love it. I never.
P-O-E-H. I'm sure they probably went, let's drop the H. It's
P-O-H-E? That seems a little on the nose, yeah.
But I think just his sense of Luke that we see in A New Hope and Empire before he starts to lose things.
Right.
Of just like, this is going to be great. This is going to be fun. But he has the weight of living like through the shadow of his parents of like, no, there's bad happening and I want to make sure that it can be stopped.
Yeah.
So other kids like me can have good childhoods.
Cool. So we're running short on time. We want to make sure that we have time for everything. So one last question, kind of in the spirit of the book. I like that it was a slice of life that kind of revealed to us who the characters are at their core. Is there a story from your real lives that you feel like, if somebody's going to write a little slice of life about me as a Star Wars fan, what would the story be?
Oh, there's so many, but most of them are embarrassing.
Please go with embarrassing.
No, I'll try to make it short since we're running out of time. I think when I moved to California, when I moved to Los Angeles from Florida, my husband and I had saved up all our money. We had the money to go, and I had checked off my list. I had prepared. I'd gotten my cars fixed. I'd gotten an apartment rented already, and I'm from Florida, so we leave Orlando, and by the time it gets to Tallahassee, which is 2.5 hours, my car broke. I mean, it literally broke.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
The block cracked.
Engine block, yeah.
Yeah, and so somehow that was missed, and so I'm 2.5 hours away from Orlando and faced with the decision of staying in Florida, which I did not want to do, but going back to where my mom is and my family. It's only 2.5 hours away. Someone's going to go pick me up. Or do I go to the next big town? And it was also raining. It was like hurricane type weather, like bad. It's Florida storms. Unless you've been through a Florida storm, you can't understand a Florida storm. So there's like all this, it's almost like a darkness. Darkness was everywhere. And everything was like, what do I do? I had 2 cats that were peeing in their cages and my husband, and everything was going wrong.
In his cage.
And we're trying to figure out what to do. And I said, we're going to Tallahassee, which was like 20 or 30 miles away. We're going to Tallahassee. I'm going to have them tow our car into a dealership, and I'm buying a car, and I'm going to go to Los Angeles. So rather than turning around and going 2.5 hours back to warmth and family, I took out a massive loan and drove through a rainstorm to Los Angeles because I knew there was another chapter in my life to be written.
Nice.
That's
nice.
awesome.
That's great.
Yeah.
And I'm going to do the cop-outy thing. I don't think it's happened yet. To be perfectly honest,
good.
To be perfectly honest, yet I've had a wonderful journey so far, but I'm getting married in July, and I've a lot of things that I'm trying to work on for 2016, as well as moving forward, that could completely change everything. So I'm going to say that I think, if anything, the beginning of 2016 is the beginning of the slice of life.
All right.
I think that's very hopeful.
Yeah.
That is like the best is yet to come.
You're staring at the binary sunset.
I mean, we got one big light. It's really blinding.
Yeah,
so
it is. I shouldn't have looked straight into it.
I was just trying to think of like a recent moment that could just be like a moment that was a little bit of who I am, with a little bit of Star Wars. And I was thinking about after the first time I saw Force Awakens, I was blown away by the quality of the film, but also really truly devastated by Han. And just sort of like agitated.
Moving on from that, yeah.
Yeah, and we were at the ArcLight Hollywood, and we went to the bar because they had their themed cocktails, and I wanted a Star Wars themed cocktail. It was really busy there, and I saw that they had a Millennium Falcon, and I thought, if I can order a Millennium Falcon, like that will be like the right tribute.
I'll be okay.
I can raise a glass to my wife, and I can say goodbye to Han, and that'll be okay. And then the bartender was like being really, really, really slow about getting me my Millennium Falcon, and I was like getting really frustrated. And then I just had that Star Wars moment of like Yoda being like, "Oh, patience, concentrate, patience." It's like, just calm down. My wife patted my back, and it was fine. We got the Millennium Falcon. We sat down and we cheers, and it was just like there's a little beginning, middle of an end, where I was
lovely.
Tempted by the dark side.
That's fantastic, and you did not go over.
And last thing that I'll say, one of my favorite line in the entire book was Poe mentioning that Leia had pulled Admiral Akbar out of retirement to join the Resistance. And I was like, no wonder he's so pissed off in the movie, and just like,
so pissed off.
I like
I'm
that
so
too.
tired of it.
Because the last time I was on Jedi Alliance, we actually talked about that, and we were all trying to predict what he was going to do, and I was like, oh my gosh, awesome.
So happy. Okay, so we move from there to Mind Probe, our new favorite segment, which I suppose isn't that new anymore, but if you go to our Facebook page, Jedi Alliance, we post it fairly frequently, like every 2 weeks. We just put up a new one over the weekend, and these are some of the ones that we got from that. Make sure to head to our Facebook page. You ask us these questions, we answer them. Let's get started. Daniel Jose Molina. Disney has expressed a desire to make an animated series based in the sequel era after they finish Rebels. What would you guys like to see in the series?
I'm going to go back to my comic answer and just say more Maz Kanata and that planet. I think there's a lot on that planet. I'd love more about the castle she lives in. I think, yeah.
Yeah, that was my answer too. Either Maz's castle or maybe a Jedi school of some kind, either before The Force Awakens or if another one gets established through the course of the sequel trilogy. And then there's a part of me that feels like there's this fine balance in Star Wars of like, do you tell the big story in comics and animated series, or do you find like someplace like Maz's castle where there can just be cool adventures and just have sort of adventure
series
of the week?
I think an anthology series would be nice. It would fit. I kind of want to see. I know we've already seen Hondo, but Maz was a space pirate.
Oh, it seems like she knows Hondo.
Yeah, and I think it would be fun even if we see it in Rebels, just a tease of Maz before she retired and got the castle.
Oh, yeah,
and just go and that would be the tease of the anthology series where she's telling tales in the bar of her previous exploits.
And I'd like to see some like her and Chewbacca
her and
interact.
Chewie, yeah.
You know, just because she calls him my boyfriend.
I like that
Exactly.
Wookiee.
I like that Wookiee.
I'd like to see some of that.
Next question from Hiram Jones. Fun question? What would be a more painful death? Eaten by a Rancor, blown up by the Death Star / Starkiller, or killed by a lightsaber?
I think Rancor is going to take the longest and feel the most insulting, the least elegant way to go. So I think it would hurt both physically and emotionally.
I wish I would have somebody like the Rancor Keeper to cry over my death.
It's true. It's one of the most mourned deaths we've seen in the Star Wars galaxy.
Yeah.
I'm ditto on everything that Joseph just said.
Rancor is definitely the most painful.
Yeah.
Lightsaber seems like literally there's a hole in you.
And it's cauterized, by the way, so it's
just
not,
like
yeah. And Han gets both. I mean, he kind of gets killed by a lightsaber, and then he's sort of kind of blown up within a Starkiller base.
So I suppose that wins. Sarah Giselle. The novels feature a lot of characters untrustworthy of the New Republic and lamenting the cycle of war and conflict. Is this Force Awakens foreshadowing, setting up a cycle of establishment versus rebellion in new media?
I love this question. I think it's a really astute question.
We've been trying to ask it for 3 weeks.
Yeah. And I think it's this really fascinating thing because it is both like thematic and narrative internally, and then also really stepping out in just like the practicality of Disney wants to make a movie every year. We want to watch a movie every year.
Yep.
So the conflict must go on. So how do you make that make sense internally? So I feel like there is absolutely an awareness of setting up that cycle. And lately I've been thinking about Maz's lines in The Force Awakens, where she says that the same fight it's always been. It's been the Sith, it's been the Empire, it's been the First Order, and that it's all about this desire to find balance in the Force. Which I feel like it is a narrative tricky challenge to keep. The story of Star Wars is characters trying to find balance in the Force, and sometimes Jedi are doing it explicitly, sometimes politicians are doing it, and it's a tricky story to tell because I would kind of like the sequel trilogy to end up with, oh, this is what balance is. This is what the damn prophecy meant. We finally figured out how to do it. But then at the same time, you kind of can't because you want to keep telling more stories.
Right. That's a good point.
Yeah, so those are my thoughts on it. What do you guys think?
Pretty much the same thing. I think all the great stories, like it's a classic trope, and plus any epic fantasy book that you've read, like Lord of the Rings or Wheel of Time, that I've read, you guys may not have read them, where there is, like you're saying, the balance of dark and light, and whenever, even if light wins and darkness is taken away, it's still not going to work out. There has to be some kind of balance, and can it ever be achieved? So I think conflict is great. I don't know if folks will get weary how they can keep recreating that conflict of trying to achieve balance in new and interesting ways.
Yeah. I do think it is rich storytelling for just the normal people of the galaxy because it fleshes them out so much. You know, like my grandfather went through the Clone Wars, and then I went through the Empire, and now there's another. That makes it more rich storytelling, I think.
It mirrors life, though, too.
Yeah.
Like there's always a conflict for whatever reason. There's always a conflict, and it's definitely reflected upon. In here.
That's why it's a trope that works so well. I mean, you look at England, France, or even the East and their history. It is something that happens over and over and over again. Balance is achieved, and then there's just some other jackass that comes in.
While you weren't looking.
Thanks, Kylo.
Yeah. Thanks, Kylo.
I mean, we didn't talk about it all, but he was great for that undercover boss sketch. That was absolutely fantastic.
Adam Driver was very, very funny.
Yeah,
Adam
was
Driver did a great job.
Fantastic. Matt.
Matt. I am Matt. It's like,
Do you know he has?
That's weird.
I saw Kylo in the shower. He has an 8-pack.
Too stupid. I love it. And final question from Russell Turco: will the new trilogy have any more no screams? Vader did in Episode 3, Luke in 5, and Rey in 7. Also, this is my proof that Rey is a Skywalker.
Nice try, but Obi-Wan did it in Episode 1. So maybe she is a Kenobi after all. I think that Finn should do it. It seems like Finn is very emotional, and I like that about his character, that he expresses his emotions and not always elegantly. So I think I would like Finn to scream no.
I'd like to see Finn scream no. Absolutely.
I agree with that.
Yeah.
Maybe Luke again.
Do you want it to be a sky scream or just a no? Or falling on your knees, looking up at the sky.
I want it to be abrupt. No! just really quick.
I don't want it to be like somebody's training a dog. Like, Chewie, no. I want somebody to do a good because Luke's no, the classic one in Empire, it's over the top, but it works. And in my opinion, Darth Vader's no doesn't quite work in Revenge of the Sith, so I'd like to see balance in the nose and have somebody do a really, really great
Life is
no.
all of you. You've made your point about everything being about balance.
Absolutely. So we're going to move on to our last segment, Duel of the Fates. He summoned the Force energy. Last week's question was, who would win in a fight, BB-8 or Maz Kanata? And I thought that there would be more debate, but there was not. Audrey, what did you think real quick?
They're so disparate, I don't know what to think.
They're around the same size.
Maz would win.
Okay, that is what almost everyone thought.
Yeah.
Maz really laid the smack on BB-8 in our comment section when we put this up. Jessica Beardsley said, this was the only BB-8 vote. She said, I feel like BB-8 is scrappy and resourceful. We saw him react to a number of different situations, and really all we saw from Maz was tending bar and disappearing when crap went down. Yes, she's wise, and her years of experience would be an asset, but I think BB-8 would have the edge, just slightly. Plus, Maz gives off the vibe as a non-violent monk type. Fair enough. Everybody else thought pretty much that it would be Maz. Carter Forbes said, I feel like Maz has some tricks up her sleeve. She has been around long enough to know how to win a fight, and she seems in good shape for her age. I think that is a great point. She is crawling on the table with the best of them at 1,000 years old. This week's question is, what is your favorite quote from The Force Awakens?
I don't know. I don't think I saw this question.
Because sometimes we do the close-ended versus just give us an answer, and sometimes we like to throw out because we put all these on our Facebook page. Something that we can.
Big question.
Yeah, so we'll get a lot of different answers, but it'll be really interesting to see if a couple just bubble to the surface as the main ones that are sticking with people.
Doesn't Poe say at one point, "Light 'em up"?
Yeah.
I'm gonna say, "Light 'em up."
Pretty hot,
Sounds like a Van Halen song.
Yeah, it does. Maybe ZZ Top.
Maybe ZZ Top. Nice callback.
Yeah, we're back to it. I would have to say either we could just use the Force. That's not how the Force works.
That's not how the
nice.
Force works. Yeah.
Or traitor.
Traitor.
Or Nines' traitor. Just traitor! Or Kylo Ren's traitor.
Yeah.
Like, just that utilization of that word in both of those scenarios is very striking and makes you stop
Yeah, yeah.
Much
To
like the
me,
music.
my favorite thing in using a quote is when it almost works in day-to-day life, but we become so familiar with it in the film, we know what the context of it means. So I was gonna go with that's not how the Force works for sure, because that seems like anytime that somebody is trying to do, like they're pushing on a pull door, and you're like, that's not how the Force works. And I'll go back to, I said this a long time ago on Jedi Alliance when we were talking about our favorite quotes. There has been an awakening. Also seems like something that can just be used in day-to-day life.
Absolutely.
A lot. Anytime anything happens, there has been an awakening. Any final thoughts on the book Before the Awakening before we wrap up the show for today?
I just really liked it. Guys, go out and read it.
Yeah, it's a
I just
great
really
final thought.
Enjoyed it. It's very quick and it's solid.
It's a great
It's a great-
quick read, and you can get it probably on sale at Target. It's not very expensive. It's like I only spent like $10 on it or something.
I got it on the old Kindle.
I
It's
got
a
on the
great
Kindle
read.
too.
On the old internet machine. So,
I like paper.
yeah, if you haven't read Before the Awakening, I'm sorry we spoiled all of it. If you have,
Whoops!
check it out. It is really great. Audrey, do you want to tell people where they can find you on the internet and anything you'd like to plug that you got coming up?
Yes, please check out geekgirlauthority.com for your pop culture and geek culture news. My podcast, Kneel Before Odd, which are ramping up in February again. I've been on hiatus. Polecats, and we have some new 5 Truths and a Lie podcasts coming out soon. I think that's all I got for you.
Mark?
Great follow on Twitter. If you don't yet, how dare you?
Oh, wait. My Audrey Kearns, at Audrey Kearns.
There you go.
That's on.
Nailed it. I do what I can.
Nailed it.
And if you want to follow my boring face on Twitter, I am at Soapbox Mark. I tweet a lot about sci-fi and wrestling, so beware for that. Also, a lot of shows happening here at the Popcorn Talk Network. I also host Video Game Movie Anatomy. We did the Ace Attorney movie last week, which was a lot more fun than I expected it to be. And then also just so much stuff on AfterBuzz. Action Movie Anatomy is going to have a great episode next week. Make sure to tune in. Joseph Scrimshaw.
You can find me on Twitter is at Joseph Scrimshaw, my cleverly disguised username. Also, you can check out It's me.
Wow.
At Joseph Scrimshaw is me, the one with my face, and then Yoda's in the background. Yeah, I know, it's me. It's unbelievable. You can check out my other podcast. It's called Obsessed. It's on the Feral Audio Network, and I talk to people about things they like, maybe even a little too much. We'll be doing the first live episode that I've done in Los Angeles. Many live episodes of Obsessed over the years, but my first one here in Los Angeles will be on Saturday, January 30th, and this is going to blow your minds, but we're talking about The Force Awakens. I know, I'm a traitor. Traitor! So if you want to find out about the show, you can visit my website at josephscrimshaw.com. Thank you for watching and or listening to Jedi Alliance. You can visit popcorntalknetwork.com to find a nice list of all the past episodes of Jedi Alliance and links to both YouTube and iTunes. Please also follow us on Twitter and Facebook at Jedi Alliance for all the us-related news. This has been Jedi Alliance on the Popcorn Talk Network. We talk movies. Thank you for listening, because many Bothans died, perhaps killed by Finn in a simulator, to bring us this information.
From producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire Popcorn Talk Network, we would like to thank you for tuning in. For questions or comments, be sure to visit popcorntalk.com. I'm Sir Richard Whitworth, and this has been a presentation of the Popcorn Talk Network. Views expressed here are those of the